Here is a needle. The hole is called the eye, and that's the point. Be careful of that point. Sometimes needles are difficult to pick up from the table, and one of my tricks is to press down on the point and pop up the other side so I can grab it. When I'm holding or carrying a needle, I hold it right in the middle, right at that waist, so that I can walk around without the point jabbing anyone. For any sewing project, you will have to thread the needle. That means you'll get some thread and you'll put it through the eye of the needle. Notice I snip the end of the thread so that it has a nice, new, fresh end. That will make it easier. And here I am, stabilizing my hands on the surface of the table and slowly bringing that thread in through the eye of the needle. Now, it's not always that easy. And I will show you some tips. You'll pull the thread through the eye for about 5 inches at the least to do a sewing project. This gives you kind of a hanging tail, and while you sew, you'll have to make sure that that tail does not pull back out through the needle. Sometimes people will even tie a knot, but that does make it lumpy there at the end of your needle. And for some sewing projects, you'll want to sew with a double thick thread in general, so you'll pull the tail all the way down till the ends are even. So here's one tip for threading a needle. If you're having trouble, you can put it in some water, or some people use their saliva to make it stick more straight and to get all the fine threads to be closer together and make it easier to thread the needle. Notice I just pulled on it to make it more stiff, and then it gets a little bit easier to put it through the eye. Another trick you can use to thread your needle is a hot dog bun trick. This is just a thin piece of paper folded in half, and I will lay my thread in that paper like a hot dog and hot dog bun. And then I can push the paper through the eye of the needle. The second skill you'll need for sewing is tying a knot in the end of the thread. So let's say your needle is already threaded, and now it's time to make a U shape, and then pull it to make an O shape, and then pull that end under and through the hole, and that's a knot. Now that's just one small knot, and if you want to make it a little bit larger so it won't pull through your fabric, you can do a double knot. I'm going to leave that loose, and I'm going to repeat what I just did. I'm going to make a U, make it into an O, and then pull that tip under and through. And that'll make a double thick knot. And that one's even leaving a little loop, and that's fine. This thicker, larger knot will be more secure while you're sewing. You can even do a third one if you want to make your knot even thicker. And if you're going to use a double thread to do your sewing, just make sure that the needle is halfway. Make those two ends even, and then you're going to do the same technique. Form a U shape, then go ahead and curl it on top to make an O, and then push those two ends under and through to make a knot. I'll show you a third skill today, which is called the whip stitch. It's a very nice, easy way of stitching fabric. So this is going to be a pizza dough. I'm going to use a pencil and kind of form an arc shape. And then I'm going to use a straight edge to make the slice of the pizza. I will use sewing scissors to slowly and carefully cut this fabric, both pieces at the same time. Long, slow snips make a very straight cut. And then equally slow but smaller snips make a nice curve. To begin a whip stitch, you will put your needle through only one side of the fabric, not both. This will leave the knot inside of the two pieces so that we won't see that big knot. Then you will begin sewing through both pieces. This means I start from behind and poke the needle through both pieces of fabric, and then slowly, making sure nothing is tangled, pull it all the way through. So that's one stitch. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to poke the needle through where I think is a good size for a stitch, which is not too big and not too small. So here I'm leaving just like a few millimeters between each stitch and trying to do them evenly so that it looks really nice. Notice it's working like a spiral notebook. I only go in through the back and I only go out through the front. This is called a whip stitch, and it's very fast and easy. It's a nice, secure way to make your first plush. So watch to get low on thread. I just got pretty low. Before it gets shorter than your needle, you'll want to push back through your last hole and pull it tight to secure where you're at. Then you'll be snipping right at that spot. You'll be able to get a new thread and keep doing whip stitch to continue around your shape.